Welcome into the Cool Grandpa Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to grandfathers, adult grandchildren, and experts in areas of importance to grandfathers. Whether you're a new grandfather, a seasoned pro, or somebody interested in learning about relationships, this is the place for you. So come on in, join us as we learn together, laugh together, and support each other on the Cool Grandpa Podcast. Hi, and welcome into the Cool Grandpa Podcast. I'm glad you're here joining me for this first show of February 2024. Lots of exciting things going on, lots of scary things going on. Change is amongst us, and change is happening, and especially with me. So I want to catch you guys up on things. I think back in September, October of last year, I told you about a job that I took, completely left turn career-wise. I went to work for a nonprofit here in the North Georgia area, and in the first part of January, I was let go. So the story on that is during our discussions, 2024 was going to be the year where we started to shore up finances. We were going to get fundraising, get things back on track, make sure we weren't eating into the reserves quite as much. And then 2025, we were going to be starting to replenish the reserves, making a lot of changes to our fee structures, how we're going to make money, that sort of thing. So that was the goal there. About, November, December, the board was looking at finances and realized that they were having a much higher burn rate than what was expected. And we hadn't increased really anything. We hadn't done anything different. It was a case of the organization just wasn't aware of where they were financially. So in the first part of January, I was let go, and the History Center is trying to figure out if they're going to run through the end of the school year, which here in Georgia is going to take it through, really about the middle of May. And then cease operations. Are they going to do something extremely drastic, or are they just shutting it down? Lots of things going on there, but they didn't need me with my salary requirements being on board. So that's been really tough. I think it's one of those things where as a grandpa that's working, we just have to deal with. We have to make the best of a situation that we can, and use this as a further learning experience, right? One of the big things that one of my mentors often talks about is that you have an event, and then you have the reaction, and then you have the outcome, right? So event plus your reaction equals the outcome. I am trying very hard to manage through my reaction to this because there's some anger, there's frustration, there's all sorts of things with this. And of course, with a nonprofit, I rolled the bones, I took the risk, and no severance, no anything with this. So we're starting to go into savings while I look to figure out what my next step is going to be. Now, all that's to say is that as grandfathers, as people in general, stuff gets thrown our way quite a bit. One of the things I really feel fortunate about is I was reading a book. The book is entitled The Obstacle is the Way, and it's by Ryan Holiday. This is a book that really went into, I think, some of the Stoic philosophy, and it handled Stoicism at a high level. But there was a chapter that I listened to probably a few weeks ago, right when all this was going on, that really hit a note with me. And I think it's important, whether it's good times or bad times or just transition times, whatever it is, this is the idea that was presented, and something that not only Ryan talks about in Obstacle is the Way, but also in several other Stoicism articles, as well as, just some basic philosophies that I think, whether it's religion or secular type philosophies, really has this at its core. And that is this idea of an inner citadel. Now, it could be calling it, the place internally where you become centered. It's this place that you go to for quiet time, reflection, and it's an exercise to be there, right? And I am not a Stoic expert at all. So if I get some of this stuff wrong, please forgive me, and be sure to either send me an email, let me know what I got right, let me know what I got wrong, or leave a comment wherever you're hearing or viewing this. So the concept that really hit home with me, and I think was just a reinforcement, was this idea of the inner citadel. Now, with me, with the history background, with me, nerding out on YouTube about medieval fortifications and battles, and how the European landscape was changing around the start of the Renaissance and going through that time period, the fortifications is something that really struck home with me. And that term, the inner citadel, really stood out. When I'm thinking about this, it's, to me, I go beyond just the imagery of a single structure. And what I do is I start thinking about, okay, the height of the fortifications, the castle building in France and England, Wales, Scotland, kind of that area, really started out with a Motte and Bailey system. And this was basically, you build a tower, fortified tower, up on a hill, so that the attackers coming in, they have got to come charging uphill. It's not easy to bring siege equipment close to the fortification, and that really becomes the keep. That's your strong point, whether you're ruling the land or you've got just a deployment of soldiers there to protect the waterways, whatever it is, collect taxes. But that fortification, that early start of that, is a Motte and Bailey system. So as those early towers started to be replaced and reinforced with stone and some other works, what they did was they extended that fortification. So not only did you have typically a hill that you had to come up with and then attack this tower, this keep, this citadel, but you also had to get through another line of walls, another line of fortifications. And typically those walls are going to be thick walls. They're going to be reinforced up at the top with ways that soldiers can move around. They're going to have opportunities and cutouts in that wall for archers. They're going to have ways that you can throw heavy rocks, boiling water, what have you, down on anybody attacking those walls. And then typically too, if you got lucky, you had a cliff face along one of those walls. You might have had a moat, and that moat might have been a dry moat. So not every moat had water in it, but it was just a big, deep ditch. So as people would come and they would try to assault and try to weaken the fortifications, they still had to come across uneven land and then go down into a moat area and then try to scale up those walls. So digging out that area in front of that secondary wall was really important. And what's inside that secondary wall might be apartments, it might be stables, it might be some food stores, it may be a big meeting hall, dining hall area. And then, beyond that, you would fall back. If those were breached, you would fall back into that keep, that citadel, that inner fortification that's really been strengthened over time. And obviously the wood has been replaced with stone. And then you get to even the bigger fortifications, and these would have another ring. So you end up having two big areas with walls and defensive measures around them. And inside that one would be things like areas for a market. So if the townspeople wanted to come in, you could have that as the marketplace. You could do some other commerce. You could collect taxes. You might be able to run an inn inside of there, or a public house, whatever it is. And this becomes bigger. And then what you have, of course, is, bigger fortifications, bigger walls. And it's a way to outlast your attackers, because at the end of the day, what you tried to do in those times is you'd come up and you'd gather people back into that fortification. You would try to outlast the attackers until help arrived. And then you would try to then go out and attack, hopefully when a relief army comes up. So the reason I'm explaining all this is because when Ryan and when other people were talking about inner citadels, it really hit as far as, how strong are your reserves? How strong are our walls, our mechanisms where we can go and find peace? And for me, I was thinking in terms of that very first outer wall defense as being, my physical fitness. And as you can see, I'm not running any marathons anytime soon. And those of you that have been listening for a little while, I've had 4 back surgeries within a calendar year. The last one over a year, almost a year and a half ago at this point. But I'm still having the effects of those back surgeries. And I'm going to use that as a little bit of an excuse, but then also too, the work I do tends to be stationary and tends to, not have a lot of movement. And I haven't done the best job of being proactive with that. But I am out walking. I am out doing some different things. So my first defense, let's say, when trouble hits, is how well are my physical fortifications holding up? How well is my body holding up? Am I getting sleep? Am I, do I have cash reserves to help hold off stress? Do I have some other means that may be of the more physical nature? Do I know what I enjoy doing that helps relieve stress? And that might be whitewater kayaking. It could be hiking. It could be going to the gym and swimming. It could be a number of different things. Do you know what it takes initially to work off that stress and to then keep that at that first level of defense, right? So when things get really bad and that first wall starts to have some breaches in it, and I'm not talking the complete collapse, but I am talking, hey, you've got some, in this imagery, you've got some, stonework that's collapsed. You've got a breach in the wall. And now it's time to go back and retreat into that second level. That second level is going to be, what relationships do you have? What's your network looking like? What are you putting into your mind? What are you putting into your soul to help fortify you during these changing times, during the stressors that's going on? Are you reading good materials? Are you reading things that are uplifting? And that doesn't have to be nonfiction books. It doesn't have to be, if you're religious, any kind of scriptures. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. What we're looking at here is, what are you doing to be able to take care of yourself and your mental capacities at this point? Are you going to see a therapist? Is that helping? Do you need to go see a therapist? What are you doing to keep your self as motivated as you can to keep moving forward and to keep looking for what this obstacle makes possible in your life? And then when that second wall becomes weak, and it probably will become weak, and that you start to have some breaches in that wall, and you have things that are coming in and they're hitting down at the core. They're hitting your keep. They're hitting your citadel, right? This is that inner tower that's been really fortified and built on from being the very first fortification that you had in your life, the very first thing that you had as a core to go back to center yourself. And for me, my suggestion here is going to be a combination of your family, your closest friends, your spouse, and could be your kids or your grandkids. It could be whoever is closest to you. But ultimately, that citadel, that inner citadel, is something that you've got to build up yourself and you've got to maintain. So right now, as I said, I've been laid off. I'm eating into savings. I'm just trying to be open and honest with you guys, because here's a grandpa that's got some rough waters and things are going to be okay. But these walls that I've worked on, these fortifications to where I could always retreat back into and find peace and find some stability, are being rocked right now. They're, the external forces, the events are definitely pushing on those defenses that I've got. And so that's what really struck me. This citadel is this building up of yourself. And I think with some of the Stoicism articles that I was reading, part of this is that it's action oriented, that, as grandfathers, as grandmothers, as people, we have this citadel, and that we do leave it to go into the world to do what we need to do. And then the obstacles are those things that get in our way to keep us from returning back to our fortifications, back to our inner peace, back to the places that give us encouragement, back to the places that rejuvenate us. And those can also be actual physical places too. They don't have to be just things in your head, things that are intangibles. If your happy place is on a hillside somewhere on a hike, go there. Go and find it. Use that as part of your fortifications. If it's going to a place that's just absolutely beautiful and still, and you can just sit and you can ponder and you can reflect and you can gather yourself together and think about what actions you have to take next, absolutely go do that, whatever that is. Now, once I get through this event and I get back on track, however, whatever on track is, what I'm going to have to do and what you need to be doing when you have times of peace and stability, as much as we do, right? Day to day, we always have things that come up, is you've got to rebuild your fortifications. You've got to fortify yourself, because if you just leave relationships to take care of themselves without being intentional about it, if you stop putting good things into your mind and into your heart, if you stop communicating well with your spouse, if you run into these different troubles and you don't take steps to fix them, the very next time you have events that come your way, you're already fighting behind broken fortifications, and it's just going to be harder to take care of that the next time through. So what I want you to do is think about these things and think about your internal citadel. I want you to be thinking if you need to shore up your fortifications. And I want you to remember those three areas, right? We want 3 rings or 3 areas for defense. The initial one is going to be what's going on physically with you. And that includes, money reserves, that includes cars working, that includes shelter, that includes food. All those physical things need to be shored up, right? And whatever you need to do to shore those up, shore them up. Then what you need to do on that second ring of defenses is make sure your relationships are growing. If you've moved, if you've had friends moved, if you have different things that have happened to you, make sure you're replacing those. Look for different connections. Look to grow your connections. I mean, fortifications, you can never have walls that are too thick or too tall. You need to be working on those. And then lastly, at the very center, your very inner citadel, your keep. What do those walls, what does that tower look like? Are you in a good place with your spouse? Are you in a good place with your family? Are you in a really good place with your your friends? And do you have those people that you can call at 3:00 in the morning and say, hey, I'm in trouble. I've got, X going on. I need help. And that help might be just somebody on the other end of the phone. That help might be, hey, I need so much dollars to immediately put towards keeping the heat on, as an example. Whatever that is, making sure that inner citadel, that inner keep is solid. Making sure that if you're a person of faith, are you really exercising your faith at that point? A lot of times when crisis hits, that's when we start to dig in, and that's okay. But I also think, too, you've got to be working on that when times are good, so that when times turn, you've got something that you can really lean back and take refuge in. So we are doing some different things around here. I'm partnering up with Heart of the Fathers, and they're helping me out. We're going to be trying out Riverside, which is a great application for video. And so we can capture some of these things. We can create some reels. We can create some shorts. We can create some different things. So you're going to be seeing, me in my office as it is. We're going to be seeing some of our guests, and we're going to be doing a little bit more with this. So this is all new to me. So it's another opportunity for me to learn new skills, to learn new technologies, to grow, and then be able to, in the future, be able to help somebody else that's going through the same thing, whether it's their podcast or their vlog or their YouTube channel, whatever it is. It's a great opportunity, and I'm super grateful to Heart of the Fathers Studio. And we'll be talking more about Heart of the Fathers. These guys are awesome, and they're all about making sure that grandparents are connecting with grandkids and adult kids to make sure that the rising generation has a really good leg up. I know I've been talking for a little while, and I just wanted to let you know I want to be as open and honest with you guys as far as what's going on as I can be. But I felt like this was something I needed to talk to you all about. Not so much to say, hey, look at me, I got laid off, all this stuff, because I'm not unique in any of that. Nothing here was personal. Nothing here is different from what other grandfathers may be going through. There's certainly a period right now where there's layoffs going on around. Just heard UPS is going to be laying off 12,000 people. These are management positions, so there's probably a good handful of grandfathers that are going to be affected by that. So, my situation, of course, is unique to me, but it's not unique or different from anybody else that's had this kind of experience. So if you're interested in more Stoicism, I'm going to put links to The Obstacle is the Way, that book by Ryan Holiday. I'm going to put a couple of other links into the show notes so that you can check it out. It's really kind of an interesting idea, and it's really something that I think if you haven't looked into Stoicism before and you've just heard about it, you've heard of Marcus Aurelius, you've heard of maybe a couple of other people that were famous Stoics, but you're not sure what it is. These are definitely great little gateways into that philosophy. So check it out. And if it's for you, great. Do a deep dive. There's lots of great materials on this stuff. If it's just a case of wanting to find out a little bit more about this and just be more knowledgeable, fantastic. That's awesome. And what I want to do too is just let you know this month of February, we're going to be talking with people around topics that are important to grandfathers. We're going to be talking about teen, specifically substance use and abuse. And we're going to be talking a couple of other things that are important for grandfathers. So February is going to be heavy on the info. And then we've got some fantastic stories about grandfathers and for grandfathers that will be coming up following into March. So we're mixing it up. You guys know that I love talking to grandfathers themselves, figuring out what they're doing to win. And then I love talking to adult grandkids, figuring out what those impressions were that their grandfathers did. and what we might be able to incorporate into our lives. And then I love talking with experts about topics that really affect grandfathers and really grandparents in general, but grandfathers specifically. So, hey, I want to let you go. I appreciate you staying on and hanging with me. And remember, if you need to work on your own personal citadel and you don't have much drama going on, now's a great time to do it. And I hope you take advantage. If you're going through some rough weather, hang in there. We'll get through this. You're not experiencing anything that somebody else hasn't experienced, although it may be very intense and it may be very personal to you. Other people have gone through this. Other people have made it through. And many people around you are looking to support you. So I want you to remember that. And until next time, I want you to remember to stay cool. Thank you for listening to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and share it with a friend. That's the best way you can help us to expand our community, as well as get the news out about how valuable grandpas are in the lives of those kids. If you'd like to leave me a comment or shoot me a potential topic for this podcast, please go to www.cool-grandpa.us. Look for the comments tab, fill it out, hit submit. It's as easy as that. Until next time, remember to stay cool.